Okay, so now we are going to talk about posture and alignment. So, posture is a way you hold your body while standing, sitting, and moving. That's our definition. That's what we want to remember about posture. So take a minute, read through it, repeat it over and over again. So remember what happens to our neural pathways when we repeat stuff. Hopefully you've seen the coordination and agility tutorial already, so you know the importance of repetition. So read it through. What is posture? Remind me. Maybe write it down, say it out loud. Oh, you can pause if you want. And posture is the way you hold your body while standing, sitting, and moving. Okay, so what does good posture look like? Hopefully it's obvious who has a good posture here. So good posture is when the body is actually really beautifully aligned. And we're going to look at alignment in a minute, but it looks, like you're tall, you're pulling up through the top of your head. You've not got any bits of body poking out, so no backs or hips or knees or boobs or anything. Everything is all in one line, and that line is extending beautifully upwards. So what is required for good posture? Have a think. And yeah, of course it'll help, but there are things that we can do to make sure we've got beautiful posture. So have a think. Well, I would say that these three things are key for good posture. So your first thing is core strength. So we want to make sure that our abdominal muscles and the muscles all around our back are strong and engaged, because actually they're like a corset within us. We don't need an external corset. We've already got one buried in there somewhere. So if we work on our core strength, we're engaging those muscles which allow us to pull up and to support that spine and take pressure off your spine. And flexibility is also important. So if you've got, really tight hip flexors, you might start to slouch. If you've got really tight glutes, you might start to stick your bum out. We want to make sure that we've got that balance of strength and flexibility to make sure that we aren't pulling ourselves out of our good posture. And all of these things come down to alignment. Oh, that's not spelled right. Alignment or alignment, if it's spelled correctly with an N instead of an H. So let's have a little think about kind of posture and how it's used in dance. So how can posture be used in choreography? We've looked at pieces where posture has been used to help demonstrate stylistic features or the aesthetics of a particular style, and where posture has been used to create character. So pause this for a sec, take a minute, think, right, where does a choreographer have a really specific posture that they want their dancers to use and to show in their piece? Where have I seen posture used to help create character? So here are a couple of ideas. So Merce Cunningham is known for his dance's beautiful elongated spines and upright postures. And that is a real kind of stylistic feature of the aesthetics of Cunningham. Then, for us, for the ASs this year, we've got our lovely CD man in Rooster and Lady Jane, where he leads with his crotch and thrusts it towards women to show that he's led by his crotch in life and that he's a bit of a player. For those A2s resitting AS, we could think about like the Queen in Swan Lake, where she has that beautiful upright posture to show how regal she is. For example, alright. So moving on, we've got alignment now. So here it's spelt correctly. It's got an N. It's got a secret kind of G as well, so don't forget about the G in alignment. So alignment is the placement of the body in its correct anatomical position. The important words there are in bold. It's the correct anatomical position. So take a minute, read it, repeat, and what is alignment? Remind me, write it down, pause this if you need to. So, alignment is the placement of the body in its correct anatomical position. There we go. So, hold on a sec. before we talk about alignment, we just need to clarify what the difference is between posture and alignment. Do you know? Have a think. Look at those two definitions. What is the difference? Well, I would say that the difference between posture and alignment is there is a choice with posture, isn't there? It's how you choose to hold your body, or how you're directed to hold your body by a choreographer. Alignment is actually about anatomical correctness, and there's only one way that we can hold our body anatomically correctly without, risking damaging our muscles or putting things out of place that shouldn't be there. So let's have a little think about alignment, and maybe that will make more sense. So think about where we see alignment and what good alignment would be in all of these different positions for me. So pause this and write a little kind of bullet point for each thing for me. So what do I look for in a plie if you're showing me excellent alignment? What do I correct when you plie in your dances? Have a think about that maybe. So have a pause, get these things down, and then prepare yourself for the answers. So, where do we see alignment? In a plie, I'm always looking for those knees over toes, aren't I? If our knees are rolling in or rolling out, then we're starting to damage those joints. Those beautiful hinge joints of our ankles and our knees, which are only supposed to move in one direction. So if we're plieing with our knees all over the shop, we're forcing that joint out of its natural range of motion. Other things I look for in a plie: tucking your pelvis underneath you. How many times have I told you to tuck your bum under you in second? So we're looking for that pelvis tucked under, and we're looking for beautiful elongated spine, so there's no slouching or curving in the middle. In an arabesque, I'm looking for the knee over the instep of the foot, so that's the centre of the foot. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because our knee needs to be over the centre of the foot, so that we're not our weight isn't too far forwards or too far backwards. So then our pelvis can be directly over that knee, so the weight of our torso is being sent straight down directly into the floor. We want our pelvis square, so no hips lifting. We don't want to look like a dog peeing on a lamppost. We want to look beautiful and elongated. So we have our beautiful elongated spine as well, making sure we're not sticking our ribs out and overarching that spine, but we've got a beautiful long line there, because with ballet, the aesthetics are all about those long, clean lines, aren't they? Then we've got our pirouettes. So pirouette is similar. We're on a releve on one leg, aren't we? So we want to make sure that our pelvis is over our ankle, our knee is locked and kind of over that toe as well, where all of our weight is balancing. We've got that lovely extension of the spine as well. Now in lifting, it's really important to think about alignment. So when you are lifting, you want to make sure that your knees are over your toes, because we should normally be using our legs to do most of the lifting rather than our backs. So we want bent knees as we lift, and we're bending our knees over our toes to make sure we're not damaging our joints down there. We've then got our pelvis underneath us and our spine extended to make sure that we're not using our spine to lift. We're not placing all the weight of that other person on those delicate little bones in our spine. We're making sure we're sending that weight directly down into the floor instead of having a nice straight and elongated spine. So what does happen if we're not correctly aligned? We've kind of touched on it, but we'll go over it and we'll clarify. So we risk injury, and why do we risk injury? Have a little think. Have a think about what you know about structures of joints. So if our joints are forced out their natural range of motion, they're going to get damaged. And if we think about key joints, especially like when we go back to plies, and obviously plies are not just important for plieing, but things like landing jumps, for lifts, for all sorts. So our joints are forced out their natural range of motion if we're not correctly aligned. And if we're thinking about our legs, it's our ankles and our knees that are really going to take the brunt of the injury. So we need to make sure we're protecting those joints, because they're hinge joints, aren't they? So they can only move forwards and backwards. If we're making them move on the diagonal and wobble all over the place, we're starting to risk injury. And the kind of thing we might do is damage the structure of a joint by pinching cartilage. That's also a risk when we're lifting as well. So when we're lifting, and if we try and use our spine, our vertebrae start to pinch for cartilage and damage that cartilage in between our spines, and it can always kind of push out as well. And that's what a slip disc is, and that's extremely painful. So we don't want any of that. It's also a risk of dislocating our joints as well if we're not correctly aligned, and actually pushing the joint kind of out of its position, which is really, really painful again and really dangerous. So how can we improve our alignment? Well, I mean, there are two main things we can do. First thing is improving our muscular strength. So we want to make sure that our muscles are able to support our skeleton in maintaining that beautiful correct alignment. So whether it's improving the strength of our legs through doing things like plies and squats to make sure that our muscles are maintaining that correct alignment. Things like our ankle circles in a warm-up actually strengthen all of those little tiny muscles in our ankle to make sure our ankle can remain correctly aligned. It's really important for things like tap. I don't know if any of you have done tap, but when you do tap, you do a lot of ankle strengthening things to make sure you're not damaging the alignment of your ankles while tapping. And the other thing you can do is just be more aware of your own alignment. So going back to that idea of coordination again, and actually repeating exercises to make sure that every time you perform that movement, it's being performed correctly and you're not even having to think about it, because those neural pathways are so strong that our body remembers, really efficiently how to perform that movement. Other things that we do in class to improve our alignment are thinking about imagery. So thinking about tucking our pelvis under, or a bit of string pulling up through the top of our head to improve the extension of our spine are all really valuable. Or just using mirrors or filming yourself and watching back, noticing when your bum's sticking out in a plie is always really, really valuable as well. So here we go. That is posture and alignment. I really do think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's all common sense really, but let's just have a recap just to make sure we know what we're on about. So posture is the way you hold your body, and it can help to communicate character and choreography, and it can help create aesthetics of a style as well. So we talked about Cunningham with his elongated spine. Obviously that's similar with ballet. If you want to find a contrast, you can look at someone like Hofesh Schechter, and actually with Hofesh dancers, you feel slightly more slouchy. You don't have that same extreme elongation of the spine. You're still perfectly aligned, but actually you just have a slight kind of curve, slight more curve in that spine, to create the aesthetics of his style. So then if we look at alignment, which again is spelt incorrectly, gosh, work up, Esther. So there's no E after the N there, make sure you're spelling it correctly. So alignment is the placement of the body in its correct anatomical position. So there's no option, it's not about how you choose to do anything with alignment, there's right and there's wrong. So incorrect alignment, spelled correctly, can cause injury such as dislocation or a slip disc. You don't want that. And we can improve our alignment through improving our strength so that our muscles are supporting those joints, and our own awareness of what alignment should be as well. Thanks for listening.